4 blocks away, and a little more blood on people's shirts. 3 blocks away, people sitting on the curbings. 2 blocks away, and then 1 block away, when people had towels to their heads or were laying down, looking up at the building, and the daycare center was blown out of it.
Jim Denny, remembering what transpired 2 decades ago for KFOR, providing the coverage there in Oklahoma City following that bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. As we welcome you back to America's Forum, we note that this weekend marks 20 years since that Oklahoma City bombing, 168 people killed, more than 680 injured. The bomb so huge that it destroyed or damaged 324 buildings within a 16-block radius. And probably what was the most wrenching of all, gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching, 19 of the victims, babies, toddlers, children, many at a daycare center inside that building at the time of the bombing. Joining us now to take stock and remember, 2 decades later, former United States Congressman Ernest Istook of Oklahoma. He is Skyping in from Washington, D.C., and again from Newsmax LA, our good friend and Newsmax contributor, Larry Elder. Ernest, where were you that day?
Interesting. This had impacted so many levels. I had been in downtown. They had a prayer breakfast that's sponsored by the mayor of Oklahoma City. I'd been downtown. I'd gone back to my office in Northwest Oklahoma City. I was 15 miles away from the blast in a 6-story building, and it shook that building. The blast registered on the Richter scale. I think it was a 3.0 that it registered on the Richter scale. And, I looked out and could see this huge pillar of smoke coming up from downtown Oklahoma City. So I went downtown shortly thereafter, along with the mayor of Oklahoma City. We went down together and, of course, saw the terrible situation at the site.
Congressman, this was 20 years ago. What measures have the federal government taken to make sure something like this never happens again?
Well, I was very much involved in those efforts. They've changed the setup around federal buildings, for one thing. And of course, we also have a lot of things that go on to try to detect groups that might bomb places before they happen. For example, the Occupy movement wanted to bomb a bridge in Cleveland, Ohio. They got detected by the FBI a couple of years ago. So part of it is what you do to provide more security at the site, and part of it is what you do to try to track what is going on. And both of those things are necessary measures. But federal buildings are certainly more secure. They are set back farther from the street. Things that prevent vehicles from coming in close proximity, that can carry something such as this 5,000-pound fertilizer bomb that was in the rented truck in Oklahoma City.
Ernest, 2 minutes remain in this segment. But as you think back now from a vantage point of 20 years later, is there one enduring lesson, one enduring impression that stays in your mind and in your heart from that fateful day?
Well, I think the impression is that terrorism backfires. Timothy McVeigh's goal in bombing in Oklahoma City was to bring down the federal government. Actually, he ended up strengthening it. It brought about a resurgence in Bill Clinton's efforts, and he was very compassionate and genuine, I believe, in the compassion he extended to people in Oklahoma City. But it caused a backlash against people who have problems with the federal government. That is one of the impacts. And of course, the impact on Oklahoma City was tremendous, and it showed the soul, the heart of the faith of the community. And boy, has Oklahoma City rebounded so strongly.
Congressman McVeigh, of course, got the death penalty. I think if you had asked people if they wanted to be the executioner, the line would have snaked down the street miles and miles. I'm noticing, however, as to the Boston bomber, he got the death penalty as well, but people seem to be divided over whether or not he should get it. Have you noticed a change in people's attitudes towards the death penalty, no matter how heinous the crime is?
About 30 seconds to answer.
I think a lot of that is the difference between Boston and Oklahoma City as far as the attitudes there. And frankly, the death penalty strengthened through legislation that was the result of the Oklahoma City bombing to stop the illegals people on death row had before then.
Ernest Istook, you obviously lived that day representing your constituents. There's a lot that went on that we're trying to process. Obviously, your message comes through crystal clear. We had a little bit of difficulty with the audio, but there's no doubting your sincerity and your sense of perspective on this day as we look back 20 years to what happened in your district there in Oklahoma City. America's Forum continues after this. We are back on America's Forum, and we're taking you back 20 years. You're seeing scenes from the aftermath of the Oklahoma City bombing that occurred 2 decades ago this weekend. And this footage came to us courtesy of Fire and Rescue from Miami-Dade County, Florida officials as they worked to try and get people out of the rubble. They also happened to recover an American flag. Let's continue our conversation now with former United States Congressman of Oklahoma, Ernest Istook, and Newsmax contributor Larry Elder. Ernest, you said something before the break about the intentions of Timothy McVeigh and how the notion was to splinter and cause dissension among the American people. But I recall folks from my district in Arizona going to Oklahoma. We had footage of Floridians coming in. Really, the country rallied behind your city and your district in the aftermath of this horrible attack.
I think that's exactly right. And Oklahomans are eternally grateful for the people that came from all over the country, the rescue teams, the dogs that were used to help try to find survivors and unfortunately also find bodies within the massive debris. And I think the one thing that stands out about Oklahoma City that differentiates it from other things is that you had such a lingering aftermath, such wreckage, so much need for people to come in and go through the site. The Boston bombing, as horrific as it was, did not have near as much property damage, certainly not the same number of casualties. So Oklahoma City needed a big response such as that. And the nation was there for Oklahoma. People are eternally grateful for that. And in fact, later, years later, when of course we had the 9/11 attacks, we had so many rescue personnel come down from New York City that when 9/11 happened, Oklahoma City gave New York City a fire truck to help them in rebuilding some of their resources afterwards. So it's reciprocation.
Congressman, so many people were killed, so many people were wounded. I understand that almost everybody in that town knew somebody or knew of somebody who was hurt or killed.
That's true. And there were so many people who had close calls. I had a friend who had literally walked in front of the Murrah building 30 seconds before, and he was in the next block where he was still shaken and injured, but at least he wasn't killed. Another friend, she was working across the street from the building, and there was so much flying glass from the explosion. She walked down several stories to get out of the building, not realizing she had a huge shard of glass in her neck that had punctured her jugular and almost died from it. So the personal stories are just massive. And everybody, like you say, knows somebody that had direct involvement.
Ernie, you and I have had a chance to reflect on this privately. You said something that I'll share publicly and you can discuss now in the minute and a half that remains. The performance of then President Bill Clinton. We had a pitched political battle going with the president, two very different visions of government, yet you give him high marks for his response to the bombing in Oklahoma City. Explain that.
Sure. And, you know, I'm not a fan of Bill Clinton there, but Bill Clinton came to Oklahoma City after the bombing. And by the way, Newt Gingrich did as well. Touring things, Bill Clinton met privately, not in front of TV cameras, with the victims. He came back for the anniversary a year later. He came back for the dedication of the memorial. I believe that the man's compassion for the people that were injured in the bombing was very genuine, and it was appreciated. Now, it didn't make Oklahoma vote for him for re-election, but I have to give President Clinton high marks, and I told him so on more than one occasion.
And it is mindful that at times, those of us who are drawn to politics, we look on in amazement at some who may be reticent in terms of one-on-one relationships, but for most involved in politics, Ernest, I think we are people persons. And certainly President Clinton, whatever disagreements you have with him, he obviously had the ability to connect with people and certainly did care a great deal. Ernest,
Well said. I agree.
we very much appreciate your time and your reflections on this fateful weekend in American history, certainly fateful for the people of your district and the rest of the country. And America's Forum continues after this.